The morning in Dewallen quietly tells a story of consumption and discarded objects, each with an unseen yet profound journey. The centuries-old cobblestones now bear the weight of modern waste. In this 16th century heart of Amsterdam, the remnants of 21st century indulgence accumulate, highlighting a city caught between past and present.
Waste is a very fascinating topic, and so if you ask different people what's really the problem of waste, then it's like, well, waste is a problem. Like, what's the problem with waste? Waste is a problem. It's like, no, that's not really true. Like you have to think of like, what's the real problem? Like, that it smells, that you don't like looking at it, that it's visual pollution. Is that environmental pollution? Is it maybe no pollution? Is it like as soon as you don't see it, the problem is gone?
Sasha's story starts here, discarded because he no longer served a purpose, unfortunately unable to change how his owners viewed him. Discarded and forgotten. Sasha knew his fate, yet every piece of waste reflects who we are.
When we go to our studio, then we walk through the neighborhood, and then we get
tears in our eyes.
grumpy and
Tears in our eyes.
it's really sad actually.
Yeah.
It's just one big mess of one pile of waste in the streets every day.
The collectors arrived to ease the frustration over waste. The mess wasn't just physical, it symbolized a neighborhood overwhelmed by rules no one could fully follow, separate collection schemes for private and public waste, the weekly maximum amount of bags that small entrepreneurs can deposit, and no space for underground bins. They weren't just cleaning streets. They were navigating outdated systems and differing expectations of cleanliness.
So I think that's a bigger issue with in Amsterdam, that it's not the full chain, but really the collection. How to even collect it from the people in a way that pays off. That's the most difficult part. So to kind of find this balance between where you place the containers, how many of them, how do people use them, how can you collect them, how frequently you have to collect them. Like with the organic waste, you cannot let it stay for a long time because it will start smelling, right? Plastics you can let stay for a long time.
In the bustling streets of Dewallen, a web of stakeholders plays a role in the cycle of waste, often without awareness of the collision of their actions. Sasha's journey took a sharp turn. Abandoned on the pavement, a garbage truck's tires neared. How does something once valued lose all worth? To grasp the problem, we must look beyond Sasha's tale and at the streets where waste accumulates. What decisions, big and small, unravel the system and create the chaos we see daily?
Today is a completely different kind of story. It's a completely different problem. Dus I'm Miriam.
I'm Mark Schulte. We've been living here since 2005.
The public is more. There are more visitors, there are more people, and there are more.
Much more trash, yeah. We also noticed that there's much more fast food restaurants in the neighborhood, and people buy lunch at the Albert Heijn. It's amazing how much waste you produce for one meal for one person.
Consumption as something we do as people has become one of the centerpieces of how we organize our lives. The idea that we should consume and that as people we are first and foremost consumers is like a 20th century concept. Yeah, so I'm Joppe van Driel. I work as program developer circularity in urban regions at the AMS Institute. I try to connect science and practice to solve things in the city. Take the problem with the deposit schemes, which actually works to increase recycling rate, but then because there's value in this waste, people start opening bags.
Because when you collect the plastic again, everyone puts his plastic in somewhere else, so then there's no plastic in the garbage bag, so you don't have to rise them open. Yeah. But still there are new clothes and all other valuable stuff in the bag. And so for the people living on the street who have nothing at all, for them it's useful to open these bags.
And now with the deposit system on plastic bottles, yeah, now it's worse, even worse than a few years ago. Up to a certain level, if the streets are clean enough, then people behave.
Yeah.
They intend to do the good thing, you know. Okay, I will look for a waste bin and put it in there.
Yeah.
But as soon as there's a waste on the street, then they don't care anymore. Yeah. Yeah.
Against the backdrop of De Wallen's most famous square stood Ouderkerk, the old church. Its bells rang out across the neighborhood, a timeless sound drowned at times by the chatter of tourists weaving through the red-lit windows. Here, among the crowds and the flickering neon, a group of curious minds gathered to explore a problem as old as the city itself: waste. Cigarette butts, bulky waste, punctured bags spilling their insides, the messes left near bins, near bags, or seemingly nowhere at all. Participants sought to untangle the frustrations and perceptions tied to every waste archetype identified on the streets. Waste told a story, and each story revealed the cracks in a system struggling to balance centuries-old design with modern consumption. This co-creation marked the start of a deeper understanding of waste, focusing on its aesthetic impact rather than just its material composition.
As a product designer, we are positive because there's lots to do, and as a resident, we are very negative because it really feels, you feel ashamed when people visit you, you know.
There's a very interesting historical development in the waste management system. It's a historic city center, so there's not much space for them. The garbage trucks and the collection points that were invented in the 20th century cannot cope with the kind of consumer overturn, the kind of explosion of consumption that we experience in the 21st century, and that is in the Walla partly fueled by the tourism. But we cannot deal with this problem without dealing also with the consumer and the consumption problem.
When disposal is a mindful act, not an afterthought, even the smallest decisions shape the streets we walk.
So is the waste management system designed to recover resources, or is it designed to take away waste out of the public sphere as soon as possible and as efficiently as possible?
Throwing something away is more complex than it seems, by emotion, shame, guilt, or indifference, and by the systems we follow or ignore. For Sasha's owner, his worth was no longer in what he had been, but what he could no longer be. With finality, Sasha was discarded with mixed waste, soon to be lost in the city's tangled system.
You say, okay, the deposit scheme is the problem because it's an intervention and now we have more waste. But then because there's value in this waste, people start opening bags. It actually works to increase recycling rates of plastic bottles, of cans. Approaching waste as a resource and collecting waste based on the material composition and separating it in the right way takes more labor, but there are a lot of different factors involved. It's the specifics of the collection system, it's specifics of the tourism, and the specific kind of shops that are present. It's the role of the animals, the birds and the rats. So we need better understanding if you want to prevent these kind of waste from happening, this kind of litter from entering the public space. We don't have a fine-grained language to talk about waste. Waste is a very broad term. What does waste mean? If we invent new ways to talk about waste and to make people conscious of different types of waste, we can also treat it in a different way. We need different language, different categories, and a new typology of waste in order to be able to change the system for how we view waste, how we perceive waste, and how we go about with. The different types of waste that you encounter in the streets all have different causes. There are always different factors involved. It's a very complex system. We need much more fine-grained understanding of the relations and the factors that are behind it. So if we have a better language and a better insight into the relationships that produce the waste that we experience in public space, we can also target interventions and policies to prevent this from happening.
Let us rewind and imagine a different path for Sasha. What if the narrow streets of Dewallen weren't a challenge? What if residents saw waste not as an end, but as a chance for renewal? What if deposit system collectors moved with purpose, transforming waste into value without chaos or damage? And what if Dewallen was seen not just as a tourist destination, but as a thriving community that balanced history with modern responsibility, where discarded items were treated as valuable? In another reality, Sasha's old friend recognizes the puppet's intrinsic value. Instead of discarding it, he chooses to extend its life, ensuring Sasha finds a new purpose and a renewed connection with the world. As the sun sets over Dewallen, the streets hum with a paradoxical harmony. Lanterns glow against ancient facades as tourists and locals wander, unaware of the waste systems shaping this urban dance. Reality here is a patchwork of time, history, and habits, marking the beginning of humanity's ongoing process of dealing with the remnants of what we, at some point of our lives, deemed valuable.